Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I've got another review. Today we're going to be reviewing this 2006 BMW 650i. So as you guys can tell, this car is a convertible and it does have a lot of options. It is a 6 Series, so it's definitely a lot more, I guess, luxurious and cooler than just a regular like kind of base 3 Series. And what's interesting about this car is in 2006, its starting MSRP was actually $78,800. So needless to say, I am very, very excited to review this car today. So now I'm just going to go over some stock body measurements real quick. So this BMW actually came from factory with a length of 190.2 inches, a width of 73 inches, a height of 54.1 inches, and a curb weight just under 4,300 pounds at 4,277 pounds. That actually kind of surprised me. I didn't think that this car weighed that much. So now actually looking at the paint, it's kind of finished off in this really, really cool silver like metallic color. Now for this specific year and this specific model, it actually had 10 exterior paint options and 3 interior color options. So as you can see, it does have, like I just said, that silver metallic paint on the outside with a full black leather interior on the inside. So before I move on from the body, I did just want to mention that one thing I really, really like about this specific car, I guess it's like this for all BMW 6 Series, but I really like these taillights. Again, the body is a lot more sleeker than I guess a 3 Series or like a lower model BMW, I guess. But I don't really know. Like I'm not too much, like I'm not super into BMWs, but I do really like the body. I do think it's really sleek, and just the back end, I just really like the taillights and the way that the taillights kind of ends on that trunk line, and that trunk line goes all the way up the body on the side. So now I'm just going to briefly talk about the suspension in this car. It's basically just completely independent all the way around, all 4 wheels. Just regular McPherson style struts, nothing too crazy there, but there is a sport mode in this car, and I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the suspension actually does stiffen up when you're driving it in sport mode. So now I am going to briefly talk about the wheels and tires that are on this car. It's basically just the stock wheels and tires setup that comes from the factory, I guess. It's basically just these 18-inch alloy wheels, and the tires are 245s by 45s by 18s all the way around. Now underneath you can see double piston calipers in the front with just single piston calipers in the back. The rotors actually look pretty big. Maybe, I guess they're over 12 inches. I don't actually know the specific dimensions of the rotors, but they do look a little bit bigger. But yeah, now I'm gonna actually pop the hood on this thing and start talking about the engine. All right guys, so now I actually have the hood popped on this BMW, and underneath the hood you can see the 4.8 liter double overhead cam, 4 valve per cylinder, naturally aspirated V8 that powers this thing. So yeah, this thing could definitely like get up and jump. Like I said before, its curb weight is actually, you know, it's still over like 4,200 pounds, but still, I mean, this V8 produces 360 brake horsepower at 6,300 RPMs and 360 foot-pounds of torque at 3,400 RPMs. So that being said, considering that it produces the same amount of peak horsepower as it does peak foot-pounds of torque, I could assume, again, I don't have a dyno chart right in front of me and I'm not putting this car in a dyno right now, but I can assume that this car is very well balanced. Its power band is very linear. There's not really any dips in it, which is something that is honestly pretty good and something that most people don't really talk about. But yeah, so this car is basically, it's just rear-wheel drive, front engine rear-wheel drive, very simplistic, very easy to understand, which is something that I appreciate. Now that being said, this engine does deliver its power through a 6-speed automatic shiftable transmission. This car also does come in manual, I believe. So I think it's the same exact 6-speed transmission in the manual version of this car. I could be wrong. So the fuel economy numbers for this specific BMW is pretty low. It's actually at 13 miles per gallon during city driving, 20 miles per gallon during highway driving, for a combined average of 15 miles per gallon. So that being said, that might be a factor, like a negative factor to some people when looking for a daily driver or something they want to, you know, really commute with. You do have, I guess, the fun of having a V8 but you are going to suffer, you know, with fuel economy. So before I actually move on to the interior of this car, I did just want to briefly mention one thing that I like about this engine bay and one thing that I also dislike. Now, if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know I always try to like rip on newer cars that have just plastic covering everything, and that's kind of the case with this engine, except you can see, I guess, some things, like you can't actually see the heads, you can see like the intake box, so you can actually see some parts of the engine, whereas other cars just have plastic literally over everything. Now that is kind of the case with this engine. I don't really like the plastic over everything, but that being said, this engine bay is actually really clean, especially for a car from 2006. When I actually go for a drive in this thing, I'll tell you guys the exact mileage that's on it right now. But off the top of my head, I believe it's right over 150,000 miles. So yeah, I mean, it's really clean. You do have some scratches here, I guess, on the air box, like on the top of the air box. But honestly, like we all love completely like modified cars, like completely built cars, but sometimes it's actually kind of refreshing to see something like as bone stock as this is. Now that being said, if you are, you know, a fan of BMW, I don't know the tuning potential that this platform, I guess, has, or the kind of aftermarket community that this platform has. I know obviously a lot of people modify 3 Series, M3s, M5s, stuff like that, but this specific car, I don't know if it has a lot of potential, so correct me if I'm wrong. But it is just kind of cool to see completely like stock engine bay that is really clean. All right guys, so now I am going to take this thing for a drive in a minute, but I did just briefly want to talk about the interior. Now as you guys can see, it is completely leather. It's basically black everywhere. There are some, like, I don't know if that's wood or fake wood, like accents on the dash. But one thing I did want to talk about, and I'm gonna just show you guys, I guess, the outside view, is that the back of this, like the back window here, when the top is up, it does have pretty bad visibility out the back. But honestly, at the sides, the windows are like pretty, I guess, tall enough. But I am going to actually put the top down when I take this thing for a drive, so I won't really have to worry about that. But that being said, I mean, again, for a car that is from 2006, you can tell it's a little bit dated. Like there is, I guess, some cracks here from like sun overtime on top of the steering wheel. But honestly, besides that, like it is like super clean. Now the owner did actually clean this car for the video today, but you can tell like there's no real rips in the rugs, there's no rips in the seats or anything. And when I take a seat in this driver's seat, the leather actually, it's very comfortable, but it does actually cup you a little bit. So yeah, I am honestly really impressed with this interior. Now I know it's not the bottom of the line, like it's not a base BMW, and it's not the top of the line either, but still, I mean, for something from 2006, this can honestly like rival some, like, I guess, modern day vehicles interiors. So that being said, guys, I am going to take this thing for a drive and show you guys my initial reactions. All right guys, so now I'm actually driving this BMW, and it is really fun to drive with the top down. I mean, it's like that for like all convertible cars. Now, I know some people, especially I guess in the car enthusiast community, have mixed feelings about convertibles. Me personally, I love them. But one thing that is kind of weird in this car, now I do have it in sport right now. When it's in sport, it's still just regular, I guess, automatic, but you could put it over to its like manual setting. And what's weird though, I'm not gonna drive it really in the manual setting because I had it in there before. And what's weird and something that I don't really like is that you push it up to go down a gear and back to go up a gear, which is just, I mean, most, I guess, shiftable automatics that I've driven, it's the other way around. I could be wrong. Maybe, I guess there's a bunch of shiftable automatic cars out there like this. But that being said, I do have a little bit of a straightaway, and I'm gonna definitely, it goes fast, but it doesn't feel like you're going fast at all because everything's, I guess, focused for comfort and luxury. Now that being said, there's a lot of like options in the interior, I guess. Now if you've seen any of my other videos, I don't really stress on the options a lot because I try to focus more on like, I guess, the mechanics of the car and the actual like driving, like feeling of the car. But yeah, that being said, this car does have 153,765 miles on it, to be exact. So yeah, like I said before, a little bit over 150,000. The transmission feels smooth. It doesn't feel clunky at all. I did just give it full throttle back there. It's not incredibly fast, but the engine does sound healthy. Now when you're in sport mode, it does feel a little bit stiffer. The owner said that it stiffens up the suspension. It does feel a little bit stiffer, and there might actually be baffles in the exhaust just because I guess it gets a little bit louder when it's in sport mode. Sure, it does nothing with the power, but yeah, I mean, honestly, again, like I said before, I'm not that big of a fan of BMWs. And I know a lot of times these luxury car companies, they can make a car and it looks really cool and it's got all the fancy, I guess, options and everything, but it can't hit 100,000 miles. Now, again, this car is a little bit over 150,000, and I'm not getting anything that's like setting off any like red flags, I guess, if that makes sense. Like there's nothing really that I'm hearing that I'm not supposed to be hearing. It's super straight. I just let off the steering and it's perfect. The suspension feels very, very tight. Now, when I was looking at the brakes before, and I'm sure you guys saw it, the brakes were a little bit rusty. They're older brakes. It's a 2006. I don't know. Maybe it still has, I guess, the stock calipers on it, or I should say the original calipers on it. Looking at it, I guess, from performance standpoint, it's not really that fast. I could definitely, I guess, throw you back in the seat a little bit, but again, like over 4,000 pounds, it's just not enough power to like really like whip you back in the seat. Now, I am being very, very critical. It's still a lot of fun. It also does, I'm sure I showed it, I'm sure you guys saw it when I was talking about the interior, but it does have like, I guess, this like pretty cool like display screen. And I overall, like, probably the biggest thing that I like about this car is just the design. Now, I know that aesthetics don't really mean that much, but it's just very, very like sleek, low slung. It just looks really cool in my opinion. I know some people might like 3 Series BMWs more, where they're like, I guess, a little bit more boxy. I definitely like, you know, respect those cars. They're just not really my thing. And I do really kind of like this specific sleeker look, like lower look. Not necessarily like super low to the ground per se, but just like, I guess, like a lower roof line. And yep, coming out of the turn. Yeah, it goes fast, because right now, like that, I reached 50. But it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't feel like you're going fast, but it really doesn't. But you are going fast. Like, this car is quick. It's just not, and it is pretty torquey because it is a V8, but it's not, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like you're going fast. It's very, very refined. And I mean that like as a compliment, because sometimes when you're driving older cars, like actually a few weeks ago, I drove a 1965 Volkswagen Beetle, and that car wasn't fast by any means, but if you hit like 40 miles per hour in that thing, you felt like you were just going you felt like you were going so fast. Whereas this, you can get it up to 60 in no time, but it just doesn't, it feels very, very smooth. Now, when it is in sport, it is a little bit more stiff, it is a little bit more rigid, like I said before, but still, for the most part, it is very, very comfortable, which, honestly, that's what I think BMWs, I guess, design most of their cars for. They design them for, you know, luxury and comfort, I guess. All right, now we have another straightaway. It's a little delayed downshifting. Yeah, it's a little bit delayed downshifting when you just stop on it. Now, if I had it in the manual mode, you can control all that yourself. Actually, I'm gonna pop it in manual right now. Downshift. Yeah, it's got a little bit delay when you're actually in manual as well, but still, it's pretty responsive. Yeah, it can definitely get up, especially like once you downshift and give it. Once you downshift and like, I guess just mash the throttle, it can definitely move. It's just not like super, super wild, but it is pretty quick. Now another thing too, like now I'm just kind of like just cruising like regular, like not really on the throttle at all. And it's just fun being in a convertible. Again, I know that's personal preference. Some people hate convertibles. I happen to really, really like them. I really enjoy them. And what is cool about this car is that when you put the soft top down, it doesn't actually like lay in the back. The back part actually comes up and it tucks it in. So you do have like, I guess, the regular body lines, or I should say it like maintains, I guess, the regular body lines. But that being said, guys, if you stuck to the end of this video, definitely be sure to leave a like. It helps me out a lot. And if you're new to the channel, definitely be sure to subscribe. And if you've seen my other videos, be sure to subscribe as well too. Yeah, I have a lot of things planned for in the future. A lot more car reviews, DIY projects, and a lot of car show vlogs as well. So be sure to subscribe. Helps me out a lot. And like always, thank you guys for all the support. And until the next one, see you guys.